Have you ever realized that what exhausts you the most each day isn't other people? It's the thoughts in your own mind. No one's shouting in your face that you're not good enough. No one's forcing you to feel small, worthless, or like a failure. And yet, there's a voice inside your head, whispering the same lines again and again, day after day, hour after hour. And the scary part is, you've gotten so used to it, you don't even notice you're being controlled by it. Have you ever noticed how your mind can feel like an unreliable narrator? It paints you as a failure, turns your past into a sentence, and predicts a future with no hope. You haven't actually verified any of those stories, but somehow you let them define your entire life. You end up living in a story written by fear and old wounds, not by truth and the present moment. But what if, with just a small shift, you could expose the lies in your head and rewrite your story? What if, in a single moment of awareness, you could see that you're not a victim of your thoughts? You're the one who can take back the reins. It doesn't take a miracle. It just takes learning to question the things you've been believing every day. So if you've ever felt overwhelmed by negative thinking, if your own mind sometimes feels too noisy to find any peace, then this video is for you. Let's walk this journey together to liberate your mind from the thoughts that have been holding you hostage and slowly return to the peace that's always been there, just quietly, waiting for you to remember. 1. Not every thought is true. There are mornings when you don't wake up because of your alarm, but because of that familiar heaviness pressing on your chest. Nothing major has happened. And yet, the mind starts playing like an old radio stuck on repeat. You're not good enough. You're going to fail again. No one really cares about you. And strangely, you listen to those words as if they're gospel. No questioning, no filter. You just believe them. But pause for a second and ask, who's saying these things in your head? And more importantly, are they even true? The first thing anyone seeking peace needs to realize is this: not every thought is the truth. Thoughts flow like clouds. They come and go. Some carry wisdom, but many are just echoes of fear, old memories, or unhealed pain. We've heard them so often that we mistake them for who we are. We think we are our thoughts. And that is where suffering begins. The Buddha taught in the Anguttara Nikaya, the mind leads all things. It is the forerunner, the master. If one speaks or acts with an impure mind, suffering follows like the wheel follows the ox that pulls the cart. The real issue isn't our circumstances. It's how we've identified with every thought and whisper inside our heads. We're not observing the mind. We're being dragged around by it. Think about it like this. Imagine a stranger walks into your home and starts insulting you, making you feel horrible. Would you let them stay all day, repeating those words? Of course not. But with a mind, we do this all the time. We don't just let those negative thoughts stay. We pour them tea. Awareness begins when we step outside the stream of thought and simply watch it, not reacting, not instantly believing. Like sitting beside a river, you see the water flow, but you don't jump in and grab every drop. Thoughts are like water. You are the one sitting on the riverbank. There's a story from ancient Buddhist texts. A man was struck by a poisoned arrow. When brought before a healer, he refused treatment, insisting first on knowing who shot him, from where, and why. And so, he died. Not because of the arrow, but because he got lost in questions that didn't help him heal. Negative thoughts are like that. We try to trace them, analyze them, argue with them, but forget the most important step. Let go of the identification. See your thoughts as clouds, not the sky. The sky is unaffected by the clouds passing through, and so are you. A mindful practitioner isn't someone who has zero negative thoughts. They're someone who notices when they arise and lets them pass, like dry leaves floating down a stream. The power isn't in silencing your mind. It's in seeing clearly without reacting. When a fearful thought arises, just sit still and say to it, "Oh, there you are again, old fear. I see you." That's it. No fighting, no pushing it away. And something shifts. The fear loses power when it's seen. The lie softens when it's named. There's a simple meditation technique called labeling. When a thought arises, gently name it: worry, doubt, judgment, desire. By labeling it, you create space between you and the thought. You're no longer caught in it. You become the observer. And that is the first step to freedom. Freedom from the pressure to believe every story your mind tells. Freedom from the habit of defining yourself by wounds and unhealed moments. Freedom to return to the calm, clear presence that's always been within you. The Buddha never taught us to run from our thoughts. He taught us to see their impermanence, their illusion, and the danger of clinging to them. And once you really understand that not every thought is true, you stop letting those whispers in your head define your worth. You stop measuring your life by passing waves, and instead start living from the deep, still ocean inside. Because you are not the cloud. You are the sky. You are not the echo of your past. You are the one who quietly sees it all. 2. Transforming pain into wisdom. There are kinds of pain that, when they first hit, feel like there's no way out. Sometimes it's just a careless comment, an unexpected goodbye, a door that closes without explanation. And suddenly, the heart collapses. Not because the pain is so big, but because it arrived at a moment when you were already tired, already lost, already fragile. Some people choose to forget. Some try to hide it. Others pretend they're fine. But in Buddhism, suffering is not something we avoid. Suffering is a teacher, a path. Dukkha, the first noble truth, was the very first thing the Buddha taught after his enlightenment. Not by accident, but out of deep compassion. Because if we don't truly see suffering, we can't truly see peace either. And if we don't understand suffering, then every solution is just a temporary fix, not true healing. There's a story in the old Buddhist texts. A young mother lost her only child. Her grief was so overwhelming, she lost her mind. She carried her son's body everywhere, searching for medicine to bring him back to life. She came to the Buddha. He said, "I'll give you the medicine if you can find a mustard seed from a household that has never experienced death." She went door to door, but every home gave her the same answer: "Someone in this house has passed away." Eventually, she sat down and realized her pain was not unique. Pain is part of being human. And in that moment of understanding, she finally let go. Not because she gave up, but because she saw clearly. All of us, at some point, will walk through loss, will be betrayed, left behind, misunderstood. But what matters most isn't what happened. It's what we learned from it. Did the pain drown us, or did it teach us how to rise with a wiser, softer heart? With mindfulness, every wound can become a doorway, a door into compassion and deep wisdom. Mindfulness doesn't mean forcing yourself to be calm or thinking positive all the time. It means having the courage to sit with your pain without fear, to let your sadness speak without pushing it away, to ask yourself, what is this feeling trying to tell me? Where did this wound begin? And what do I really need? to heal. Sometimes, pain is simply the voice of a forgotten part of you, a part that longs to be seen, to be held, to be loved. People who've never suffered may have a lot to say, but those who have suffered and return to sit with their memories mindfully, they speak less, but each word they say carries deep gentleness. On the spiritual path, I've heard so many people say, it was those painful events that finally led me to the Dharma. Without those breakdowns, maybe we'd still be asleep, chasing comfort, chasing success as defined by others. But pain, in a deeper sense, is a wake-up bell. When things fall apart, we get to ask, what really matters now? Just like the soil must be broken open to plant new seeds, sometimes the heart needs to be touched at its deepest level to realize how fragile everything we thought was certain really is. And from that realization, we soften, we open, we begin to treasure even the smallest things. Suffering is a strict teacher, but if we listen with an open heart, it teaches lessons no book ever could. The lesson of letting go, the lesson of impermanence, the lesson of emptiness, that nothing we cling to can stay with us forever. And when our hearts stretch wide because of pain, compassion is no longer just an idea. It becomes a way of living, a gentler gaze toward others, because we've stood where they stand. Those who've heard deeply know how to place a gentle hand over another's wound. Those who've cried know how to sit quietly beside someone else's sorrow. Pain itself isn't bad. What turns it into darkness is how we respond to it. If we run from it, it becomes a chain. But if we face it with mindfulness, it becomes wisdom. 3. Creating a mind, nurturing environment. There's something most people don't realize. The human mind doesn't create thoughts out of nowhere, it absorbs them. It listens, it watches, it remembers. Quietly, like a child in the back of a classroom, silently taking notes on every word the teacher says while no one's really paying attention. We often talk about positive thinking, but how often do we ask, what is my mind being fed? Fresh air makes a tree grow strong, but if the environment is full of smoke and chemicals, even the best seeds will struggle to bloom. The same is true for the mind. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha said, the mind is the forerunner of all things. It leads the way, which means every action, every word, every reaction starts from whatever is present in the mind. If the inner world is full of comparison, jealousy, fear, and doubt, how can peace arise? If every day we scroll through news feeds filled with arguments, criticism, and negativity, how can we expect to stay calm, kind, or open-hearted? The mind is soil, and everything we're exposed to becomes a seed. That short video before bed, a quick headline on social media, a gossipy coffee chat, that one coworker who complains every morning, all of it plants something in our minds quietly, but more powerfully than we think. Some people say, I haven't done anything wrong, so why do I feel so uneasy inside? But look closer. Is your environment slowly draining your peace every day? Are you spending time with people who constantly make you feel small, unworthy, or not enough? There's a simple but powerful story. A young student asked the Zen master, Master, I've been trying to meditate and calm my mind, but I still have so many restless thoughts. The master asked, Who do you live with? The student replied, With someone who's always angry and complaining. The master smiled gently and said, Then you're not really meditating. You're drinking dirty water and hoping your reflection will look clear. The mind isn't just shaped by what's inside, it's also shaped by what's around. Like water in a glass, it reflects the light of whatever room it's placed in. Anyone who truly wants to train their mind must consider their environment. Now, this doesn't mean you have to move to the mountains or cut off all your friends. It simply means learning to be selective about what you allow into your inner world, not by rejecting everything, but by noticing what makes the heart feel heavier, what brings lightness, what makes you bitter or competitive, and what opens you up to gratitude and kindness. These days, environment isn't just physical. It includes the digital spaces where we spend hours every day, often without mindfulness. One careless scroll during a vulnerable moment, and suddenly we're pulled into someone's toxic post. And for the rest of the day, we're quietly agitated without even knowing why. So be mindful, because no seed is ever meaningless. One uplifting story can brighten a whole day, but one violent or toxic message can plant a chain of negative thoughts that echo deep into the subconscious. If you're trying to heal, if you're walking through emotional storms, then the first step is to check what kind of mental diet you're on. Look at your closest relationships, the YouTube channels you watch, the social media pages you follow. What are they feeding into your mind? Do they bring clarity or confusion? Do they draw you toward the light or pull you deeper into shadows? In Buddhism, there's a beautiful term, kalyanamitta, spiritual friends. These are people who help guide us toward the wholesome path. But the truth is, not everyone around us is a spiritual friend. And not everyone we love is meant to stay close, especially if their presence quietly weakens our mind each day. Love doesn't always mean closeness. Some people need to be loved from afar. Protecting your own mental space is not selfish. It's an act of compassion. Because when we're too drained, we lose the ability to love well. We start reacting with frustration instead of kindness. But here's the beautiful part. Once we begin choosing what we feed the mind starts to soften. No need to force anything. Just stop planting poison, and the good seeds already inside will begin to grow. 4. Practicing mindfulness and presence. Here's a very simple question, but if you really ask it, it might surprise you. Where am I right now? I don't mean your physical location. I mean your mind. Your body might be sitting here, but your mind could be drifting off to an old afternoon full of regrets, or speeding toward a future packed with worries that haven't even happened. That's what the ancients called. The body is here, but the mind is somewhere else. In the Anapanasati Sutta, the Buddha's teachings on mindful breathing, he said, "When breathing in, I know I'm breathing in. When breathing out, I know I'm breathing out." Sounds simple, right? But that's actually the doorway back to the present moment. The only place where life is truly happening. The strange thing is, peace never hides from us. It's always here. We just don't show up for it, because our minds keep getting pulled away, back to the past, where nothing can be changed, or forward to the future, where nothing is certain. The past is memory. The future is imagination. Only the present is real. Yet most people spend their whole lives outside of the present. There was a man who lost his job, and for weeks, he sat for hours every day, replaying the exact moment his boss told him he was fired. Every word, every glance, every feeling in his chest. And every time he replayed it, the pain came back. What he didn't realize was this: it wasn't the event itself that caused his suffering. It was the memory being replayed again and again. Others live in the opposite direction, constantly thinking ahead. What if this goes wrong? What if I fail? What if things don't go as planned? And in doing that, they trap themselves in a future that doesn't exist. losing touch with everything that does. In Buddhism, this state is called wandering mind, or in Sanskrit, vitarka vichara, thoughts that aren't rooted in reality. And the Buddha once said, "There is no path to peace. Presence is the peace." Mindfulness, what we call sati, isn't some mystical technique. It's simply the art of being fully here, right now. It's taking a sip of tea and knowing you're drinking tea. It's washing the dishes and feeling your hands in the water instead of letting your mind wander to 100 other places. It's not about doing more. It's about doing less of what pulls you away. It's not about achieving something. It's about returning to what's already here. That's what mindfulness is. It's not complicated. It just takes a pause and a willingness to feel this moment. A Zen teacher once said, "Every time you return to the present, you heal a little of the past and fear a little less of the future. Because when you're present, you're no longer playing the victim of old stories and no longer predicting tragedies that haven't come. You're just here breathing, alive, and aware of it." Mindfulness isn't just something you do in meditation. It's in every step you take on your morning walk. It's in the way you notice the wind in the trees. It's in that quiet moment watching sunlight stream through the window. Peace doesn't come from far away. It shows up whenever you stop chasing thoughts and start meeting life. There's a simple walking meditation practice. You just walk slowly, and with each step, whisper to yourself, "I'm walking. I'm arriving home to myself." You don't need a mountain temple. You just need a quiet hallway, a small backyard, or even a still corner of your own mind. And when presence becomes a habit, something amazing happens. Some worries dissolve without needing to be solved. Some sadness softens without needing words to fix it. Because when the mind is rooted in the present, it doesn't get tossed around by every wave. There's no gift more precious than being fully present. To others, your presence is deep listening love without words. To yourself, it's self-acceptance. It's healing. 5. You are not your thoughts. Have you ever had a thought pop into your head, and suddenly your whole mood shifted? Something small like, "I'm not good at anything. People probably don't really care about me. I'm going to fail again." And just like that, your heart sinks. Your emotions flare up. Your confidence cracks. It's like peace was sitting there a moment ago, and now it's gone. This happens to so many of us. And most people believe, if I'm thinking this, then this must be who I am. But actually, that's not true. In the Samyutta Nikaya, the Buddha once said, "The mind is like an artist painting the world," meaning your mind can create all kinds of images, stories, and dramatic scenes. Just like an artist can sketch entire worlds from just a few strokes. But that doesn't mean the painting is reality. There's a truth that's simple but incredibly freeing. If you can feel it deeply in your heart, you are not your thoughts. You are the one who sees those thoughts arise. Imagine this. Your mind is like a river. Floating on the surface are leaves, branches, even trash. And you're standing on the riverbank, watching it all drift by. Here's the beautiful part. You don't have to jump in. You don't have to grab onto anything. Thoughts are the same. They come. They go. Your job isn't to fight them or to try to eliminate every negative thought. Your job is to watch, to observe calmly and clearly without getting swept away. In Buddhism, this is called the power of the observer, the one who can witness the mind's movement without getting lost in it. Like someone watching a play on stage, but knowing they're not the character crying under the spotlight. That quiet awareness, that still place inside you that can't be shaken, that is the root of true freedom. Because without it, we're at the mercy of every passing thought. We ride emotional roller coasters. We judge ourselves. We live in constant anxiety, not realizing that all of it is just... There's a Zen story I love. A young monk asked his master, "Master, how can I calm my mind?" The master replied, "Who tied you up?" The monk said, "No one." The master smiled. "Then who do you need to untie you?" The truth is, the mind was never bound. It only feels tied down when we identify with the thoughts passing through it. And the way out isn't by struggling. It's by seeing clearly. When a thought arises like, "I'm not good enough," a person who hasn't trained the mind will believe it instantly. They'll act as if it's absolutely true. But someone who's awake will take a step back and look deeper. "Oh, that's an old voice from childhood. That's just a reaction from that failure I once had." And just like that, they let the thought pass, not resisting it, but not obeying it either. Being mindful doesn't mean having no thoughts. It means seeing your thoughts without being carried away. And when you start doing that, something quiet but powerful happens. Peace returns, not because the thoughts disappear, but because you're no longer mistaking them for you. That's when you begin to live like someone walking through a forest, but no longer getting lost in every branch and shadow. You see, without clinging, you feel without being controlled. And that, my friend, is where real freedom begins. 6. Build a daily spiritual practice. There's something interesting that many people overlook. When your body gets weak from lack of exercise, you notice it right away. Your heart beats faster, you feel out of breath, muscles ache. But when your mind starts to weaken from lack of nourishment, lack of training, the signs aren't so obvious. They show up more quietly. In your impatience, your sudden anger, or that feeling of emptiness you can't quite explain. And if you're not paying attention, you'll probably blame the world, your job, your family, the news. But the truth is, your mind also needs training every single day. The mind is just like a muscle. If you want it to be strong, you've got to work it. If you don't, it stays weak. And when it's weak, it gets pushed around by everything on the outside. In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha once said, "An untamed mind is like an abandoned house easily invaded by wind, dust, and thieves. But a trained mind becomes a shelter, solid, peaceful, and safe." Someone once asked, "Do I really need to meditate every day? Do I have to journal or remind myself to stay mindful every morning? Is it really necessary to keep up a spiritual routine?" And the answer isn't about rules, it's about nourishment. Because if you don't feed your heart with good things, the world will feed it with noise, stress, and distractions. Imagine this. Someone wakes up each morning, sits quietly for a few minutes, takes deep breaths, and gently brings their mind back to the present. They write a few lines in a journal, not to complain, but to listen inward. They jot down what they're grateful for. Maybe a simple observation. Is my heart light or heavy this morning? In the middle of a busy day, they pause. They look out a window. They listen to the wind. And just for a few moments, they remember they're alive. At night, before bed, they don't rush to their phone. Instead, they spend a few minutes writing down one thing they learned today, even if it's small. And day by day, their heart begins to breathe again. It doesn't feel suffocated. It doesn't react so quickly. The mind becomes like a lake, still and clear, even when the wind blows. In Buddhist tradition, we call this practice or sadhana. It's not about being perfect. It's not about fear of doing something wrong. It's about knowing each day is a chance to return to yourself. The Buddha never told us we had to do something fancy. He simply said, like a knife becomes sharp with daily grinding, the mind becomes clear with daily mindfulness. A spiritual habit doesn't need to be grand. It just needs to be consistent. Even 5 minutes in the morning just for you. Not for your boss. Not for the world. For you. There was once an old woman who lived in a monastery in Kyoto. She didn't memorize scriptures. She didn't speak in lofty Zen words. But every morning, she woke up at 4 a.m., boiled water, poured tea, and sat quietly. Just breathing. Just listening to the morning sounds. She did that every day for 40 years. And people who sat near her would feel a kind of calm, like being near an old garden full of silent flowers. She didn't need to say much. Her presence already spoke peace. That's the power of silent practice. In this noisy world, that kind of daily inner care isn't just helpful, it's essential. Because, let's be honest, the world has 1,000 things trying to pull you away. Emails, phone calls, breaking news, social media. And if you don't have an anchor inside, you'll drift without even knowing it. There's a saying from the ancients, don't be afraid of a restless mind. Be afraid of a mind that's never trained. So every day, do something, anything, to give your heart a place to rest. Even if it's just a few breaths. Even if it's just sitting in silence. Even if it's copying down a verse from a teaching. Even if it's just asking yourself, did I live with mindfulness today? These little things may seem small, but they build the inner muscles of your soul, so that when the storms of life come, your heart doesn't collapse. It stands. It breathes. It knows its way home. 7. Challenge the lies inside your head. There's something strange about the human mind. Sometimes, when someone else says something harsh about us, we stand up for ourselves. We defend. We push back. But if that same voice comes from inside our head, we just believe it without question. A little voice whispers, I'm not good enough. I never get anything right. I'm just going to disappoint people again. And instead of challenging it, we go silent. We don't question it. We don't even pause to ask if it's true. We just believe it. How many things have been repeated inside your head over the years and slowly turned into part of your identity? And how many of those things were never true to begin with? In the Majjhima Nikaya, the Buddha taught, do not believe something just because it's repeated often. Investigate, reflect, see clearly for yourself. That teaching isn't just about doctrines. It also applies to the beliefs we carry about ourselves every single day. The mind can be a very convincing storyteller. But convincing doesn't always mean true, especially when those stories are shaped by old wounds, childhood criticism, or unhealed failures. I remember hearing about a woman who, every time she had to speak in public, would hear a familiar voice in her head. Don't mess up, people will laugh at you. Even after days of preparation, she would get flustered, lose her confidence, sometimes even back out entirely. Later, through mindfulness practice, she traced that voice back. It wasn't her true voice. It was something her father used to say when she was little whenever she misspoke. That voice stuck around. And eventually, it became her inner critic. But that inner critic wasn't the truth. It was just an old memory, never examined, never healed. When she started asking that voice simple questions like, "Is this really true? If my best friend made a mistake, would I speak to her like this?" Something began to shift. Her mind softened. It stopped being a battlefield. It became a space where thoughts could be heard, understood, and gently let go. That's how you start transforming the lies inside, by responding with a kinder truth. Kindness here doesn't mean sugarcoating or blind positivity. It means choosing to speak a truth that brings light. Instead of saying, "I'll fail again," you say, "I'm learning to stand stronger each time I fall." Instead of, "I'm nothing special," you say, "I'm still discovering my true worth." These aren't cheesy affirmations. They're bridges out of darkness. Zen Buddhism has a beautiful principle. Trace your mind. See what is true and what is illusion. To trace means to investigate, don't just accept. To see means to bring it into the light. And once it's truly seen, illusions dissolve on their own. Because often, the thing that hurts us most isn't the situation, it's the way we talk to ourselves in that situation. Two people can lose their job. One hears a gentle inner voice. "It's okay. This is a chance to begin again." And they rise. The other hears, "I'm worthless. I failed again." And they collapse not because of the job loss, but because they lost trust in themselves. This is why spiritual practice isn't just about chanting or meditating or memorizing texts. It's also about this simple, powerful moment when a painful thought arises and you answer it with wisdom and compassion. When your mind says, "I don't deserve this," ask back, "Says who? Since when? And is that really true?" You may not find the answer right away, but the very act of asking, that's the beginning of breaking old patterns, of creating new space inside. A space where you're no longer the victim of your inner voice, but the one who gets to redefine how your mind works. With truth, with awareness, with kindness. 8. Using honest affirmations. Some days, the heart feels like a dimly lit room. No one turned off the light, but somehow, darkness settled in quietly, slowly. These are the days when the mind no longer believes in itself. When you open your eyes in the morning, and before your feet even touch the ground, a voice whispers in your head, "You're not going to do anything worthwhile today." In those moments, the mind doesn't need loud, forced positivity. It doesn't need you to shout, "Everything is great," when clearly it's not. It doesn't need you to pretend to be strong when you're already running on empty. What it does need is a gentle reminder, one that's real, one that's soft enough not to pressure you, but still bright enough to keep the dark from swallowing you whole. Something like, "I'm still learning. I'm not perfect, but I'm still walking. I'm healing not through speed, but by being honest with where I'm at. I might not see clear results yet, but I haven't quit, and that, in itself, is something to be proud of." In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha said, "Words can be like honey, gentle, but nourishing with great strength." What we say to others may create karma, but what we say to ourselves that shapes our inner world. If we repeat something negative every day, it's like slowly dripping poison into the heart. But if we offer ourselves just one kind word at the right moment, it becomes medicine, and the healing begins. There's a story of a woman who carried a deep sense of failure for years. She began her healing journey with something that seemed almost too simple. Every morning after brushing her teeth, she looked into the mirror and said, "I'm going to keep walking today. I don't have to be perfect. I just have to not give up." At first, it felt awkward. forced, like she was just going through the motions. But after a few weeks, something shifted. She stopped reacting so harshly when someone criticized her. She stopped spiraling over small setbacks. Not because others were encouraging her, but because she had learned to speak kindly to herself. An affirmation, when spoken from a sincere heart that has learned to listen, carries immense power. Not to lie to ourselves, but to remind our mind of what it's reaching for. In Buddhism, this is called right intention or wise mental direction, creating thoughts that are grounded in truth, compassion, and wisdom to replace the ones that aren't. And the right kind of affirmation doesn't make us arrogant. It helps us stay humble without shrinking, confident without pride, steady without pretending we're strong when we're not. It's like someone crossing a wide river. They don't need cheers from the shore, just one quiet voice inside saying, "One step at a time, one breath at a time, I'll make it across." The mind is no different. If every day it hears things like, "I'm on the right path," "Mistakes are part of learning," "Every emotion has its reason," "I'll stop rejecting them," then the negative thoughts, they lose their grip. They may still show up, but they won't rule anymore. And most importantly, honest affirmations don't come from reciting a script. They come from sitting down and truly listening, asking yourself, what do I need to hear most right now? Some people need to hear, "It's okay to be tired." Others might need, "I'm not a failure. I'm just learning how to live honestly." And some just need, "I'm still breathing, and that's enough to begin again." 9. You are the master of your mind, not its victim. Someone once asked during a meditation session at a monastery outside San Diego, "Teacher, I've been practicing observing my thoughts. I know they're not me. I try to speak kindly to myself. But why is my mind still so chaotic, so full of random, negative, anxious thoughts I can't seem to control?" That was such an honest question. And a beautiful one, because it came from someone practicing, not just reading theory. The truth is, the mind will still wander. It will still stir when faced with the world. That's simply the nature of an untrained mind. But here's what changes, and it's important. The one noticing the chaos is no longer a victim. You've begun to hold the reins. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha said, "The mind is hard to grasp, extremely subtle, drawn to what it desires. But the wise one watches the mind, and when the mind is mastered, it brings peace." The mind is like a wild horse. The world is the open field. Thoughts are the gusts of wind that make the horse go wild. But you're not the horse. You're the one holding the reins. Often, we get tricked by our own emotions. A single sad thought passes by and we believe we're broken. A memory surfaces and we assume we're wounded again. But really, those are just waves on the surface of the lake. The one who practices is the one who sees the waves without getting pulled into the water. A Tibetan master once said, "Thoughts themselves aren't the problem. The problem is not knowing we're having them." If you're feeling sad, but you can say clearly, "This is sadness arising." If you're anxious and can say, "This is fear in the mind," then in that moment you've taken your power back. That's called insight. And we all have that ability. It's not about age, degrees, or how smart you are. It comes from simply stopping long enough to see clearly. There was a laywoman named Sumana, praised by the Buddha in the Anguttara Nikaya, for her ability to stay calm even while living in the busy world. When asked her secret, she just smiled and said, "I don't fight my thoughts, but I don't follow them either. I don't try to stop the waves, but I don't let them carry me away." And that is something anyone can do. You don't need a silent life to master the mind. What matters is keeping even a small corner of stillness within you, even while life is loud. That's real practice. The mind is like an untended field, at first full of weeds. But day by day, pull a few weeds, plant new seeds, water with patience, and slowly, the weeds run out of space to grow. Each time a wild thought appears, and you can say, "My mind is reacting, but I'm here, aware of it." That's one more step in training the wild horse. And mastering the mind? It's not about yanking the reins too hard. It's about knowing when to loosen and when to hold steady, when to let the mind rest, and when to gently call it back. Just like a skilled rider, never too tight to break the reins, but never so loose they get dragged away. Some days, your mind will run wild. You'll be overwhelmed by bad news, dreams that didn't happen, or old memories. But if there's still one tiny bit of mindfulness left in you that can whisper, "It's okay, I see you," that whisper becomes your anchor for the day. No one has to master their mind perfectly from the start, but anyone can begin with something small. Just see what's happening in your mind without panic. That's the first step toward no longer being a victim of your inner waves. And maybe right now, after walking through this reflection, you're already starting to slow down, maybe taking a deeper breath, and asking yourself honestly, where is my mind going? And am I truly guiding it or just letting it pull me along? From realizing we are not our thoughts, to observing, to responding, to slowly transforming them, the entire spiritual path circles back to one truth. You are not a victim of your mind. You have the power to pause, to notice, and to choose. Yes, the mind may wander, but you can learn to see it. Yes, it may feel weak, but you can gently rebuild it. Every single day with kindness and clarity. And the most beautiful part? You don't need a title. You don't need to go anywhere. You don't need to become someone else. You just need to come home to yourself. Gently, honestly. If today's message touched you even just a little, we warmly invite you to continue walking with us here on Buddhism Seeds. Subscribe to the channel so you won't miss what's next. Like this video if it felt helpful. Share it with someone who may need this reminder. And leave a comment. We'd truly love to hear your thoughts and your heart after watching. May you always keep that little light within you bright enough to walk through dark days. And if ever you feel lost, remember, your mind doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be seen and gently guided home. See you again in the next video.